They used to call you too sensitive. Now they call you too distant. Same peace, different boundary. Same softness, new standard. Hi, love. I'm Kay Ali Cole, and this is where women learn to love and lead from power, not panic. This is where we return to our truth and learn the strategy of peace, power, and purpose. This is your invitation to come home to your center. Before we begin, Queens, stay with me until the very end. Your exclusive Queens closing gift is waiting there just for you. And I see a lot of you Queens watching but not subscribing yet. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You give me your time, I give you my best. That's our promise to each other. All right, so let's buckle up and get into this message because it's a lot and I want you really to receive it. All right. They told us peace was passive, right? But peace, real peace is protection. Know that. It's not the absence of tension. It's a presence of discernment. It's the holy decision to no longer internalize chaos just to make other people comfortable. Queen, peace is no longer your prize. It's your prerequisite. Because what used to be optional has now become sacred. You don't perform access anymore. You don't confuse anxiety with urgency. You don't self-abandon and call it compassion. You change. And peace is how that change shows up. Let's be clear. You didn't get quieter because you didn't care. Of course not. You got quieter because you finally realized your energy is not a public utility. It's to be reverenced. You don't offer it to just anyone. Let me call this out real quick because sometimes we do things and say, for example, like, why do we treat calm like it's a personality test we keep failing? You ever try to stay composed and then 3 minutes later into the group chat, you're back into performance mode? That's not because you're fake. It's because you've been trained to prove your peace instead of to protect it, right? But Queen, the shift is happening. You don't perform peace anymore. You preserve it. You preserve it. Here's the truth. You've started setting boundaries, not because you're hard, but to be whole. And sometimes the boundary sounds like, I'm not available right now. This conversation no longer feels fruitful. Let's revisit this when we're both, in a good space. That's not a shutdown. That's stewardship. Because peace without boundaries is spiritual exhaustion with a filter. It is. Even Jesus slipped away to rest. Even the sacred said, not here, not now. Peace isn't spiritual bypassing, it's spiritual strategy. And Queen, when you let God lead your restraint, you stop explaining your stillness to people who only hear noise. They can't hear you. You used to say yes and feel your whole chest tightens. You used to answer late night calls from people who only remembered your number when they needed your energy. You used to show up drained, dizzy, and disconnected just to be seen as supportive. But now, right now you understand that your nervous system isn't a casualty of your compassion. And that clarity, that's the upgrade. Now here's the part that makes me laugh every time I think about it. You finally start choosing peace and suddenly everyone's confused. You've changed. You're distant now. You used to be so much fun. Oh my gosh, I hear that. Used to be so much fun. No, Queen, you used to be available. Now you're aligned. You ever walk into a room and you used to feel anxious in, and this time you just breathe. Not because the room changed, because you did. That's not small. That's resurrection. Because when a woman reclaims her regulation, she becomes the thermostat, not the temperature. She shifts the atmosphere just by standing still. Let's speak it plain. The old you tried to maintain the mood of every room. The new you, you're not interested in being bendable. You're interested in being present. And sometimes presence requires silence. Sometimes peace requires exit. Sometimes love requires boundaries that feel like betrayal to people who only knew the unhealed version of you. Right? Queen, peace is no longer the reward for getting everything done. It's the requirement for deciding what's actually yours to carry. You don't earn peace at the end of the to-do list. You start with it. Because when peace becomes the standard, not the side effect, you don't ask, how can I make them feel better? You ask, what does my spirit need to feel safe? And that one question, it changes everything. It changes it. Take your time. You don't need another apology. You don't need another rescue. You don't need another round of overgiving to earn validation. You need alignment. You need silence that speaks louder than performance. You need to feel your breath slow down in your own presence and call that power. Picture this. You get a long-winded message, right? From someone who used to activate every anxious thought. And this time, you read it slowly, you breathe, you smile, and you don't even feel the urge to respond. That's not cold, that's healed. How good does that feel? Because, Queen, the version of you who no longer is driven by urgency, she's the one who's actually ready to lead. All right? Peace is not your reward. It's your responsibility. It's not passive. It's prophetic. It's a new standard, and Queen, you've already started walking in it. No noise, no announcement, just a quiet return to your power. And that's how we begin. That's how we start. Now let's begin. Just unravel it all for you on why peace is your new standard, right? How you walk into that peace each and every day. The world is full of noise. There's chaos all around, but your internal, your center needs to have that peace. You've heard this before. Peace comes from within. But what they don't tell you is this. Peace doesn't just arrive fully formed. It's cultivated, protected, it's practiced. It's a standard, not a suggestion. And Queen, once you taste the clarity of a quiet mind and a rested heart, you can't go back to chaos being your baseline. You've lived the overextended life, where being available meant being exhausted, where performing kindness was praised more than protecting your boundaries, where keeping the peace meant breaking yourself. But now peace is your compass. You're no longer confused by noise that tries to dress up as importance. You're no longer rushing because someone else's timeline is panicking. You don't pick up every emotional call that rings. Because here's what you've learned. Not everything urgent is important. And not everything loud is worthy. Right? The world told you that being a good woman meant being agreeable, soft-spoken, unbothered, accommodating. But we're rewriting that definition. Peace is not passive. peace is power. Peace is not a personality trait. It's a personal standard. And when peace becomes your standard, you stop tolerating things that once felt normal, but were never natural to your spirit. You stop bending to tension just to avoid confrontation. You stop editing your truth so it won't offend someone else's dysfunction. Because Queen, peace doesn't mean silence. It means alignment. That's what it means. Let's tell the truth. Isn't it wild how we used to measure our day by how many fires we put out? How many messages we replied to? How many misunderstandings we tried to fix? How many people we made comfortable while we stayed anxious? But now you know, a regulated nervous system is worth more than a return call. A quiet night is worth more than a cleared up rumor. A soft inhale is worth more than a sharp comeback. And this is where we look towards rewiring our mind. Because peace isn't just an emotion. It's a frequency. It's a natural result of a nervous system no longer hijacked by hypervigilance. That means peace is felt in the body, not just the brain. When you stop feeling the need to be on all the time, when your jaw softens, when your shoulders fall, when your stomach isn't in knots. That's peace. That's peace whispering, you're safe now. You're here now. You're free now. Right? Now let's bring in some deeper understanding into this. Because you have to understand, your inner world writes the script. Your imagination is not a daydream, it's a directive. And the woman who rehearses peace inside, she lives peace on the outside. That's why we're not chasing circumstances anymore. We're creating conscious conditions. You picture your peace and then you partner with it. What does that look like to you? So when someone throws chaos your way, you don't automatically react. You pause. You remember your vision. You check in with your breath. You respond with intention or not at all. Why? Why? Because you're not responsible for fixing every wave. You're not responsible for you're only responsible for staying on your boat. That's Queen's mastery. That's mastery, Queen. Now here's the part that makes me laugh all the time when I think about it. It's when you finally set your peace as your new standard and someone says, you've changed. Why? Why do they always say that? And you're like, thank you. That was a point. It was a whole point. Right? The world thrives on speed, on urgency, on notifications, but the Spirit of God thrives in stillness. This is a sacred wisdom. Right? The soul speaks in quiet places. That means if the world is yelling and your soul is whispering, follow the whisper. Follow the whisper. That's peace. And it takes courage to choose that whisper in a world addicted to volume, addicted to noise, addicted to drama and chaos. But Queen, you're not afraid of quiet anymore. You're becoming fluent in it each and every day. Right? Let's talk about boundaries. Because when your peace becomes your standard, you stop defending your no like it's a crime scene. You say, this isn't for me, and let that be the period, not the beginning of an apology. You don't perform explanations for people who aren't truly listening. You don't go to war for what God already gave you permission to walk away from. And the truth is, You used to confuse peace with people pleasing. But now you know the difference. You understand the difference between the two. One empties you, the other returns you to yourself. Which one? Which one do you think it is? You know the answer already, right? You know what it is. Because why do we still get tempted to explain our boundaries within a whole essay sometimes? Like, hey, I would love to, but I have this thing and I'm really tired and maybe next time. Why? No, Queen. Sometimes a full sentence is just, I won't be able to make it. We don't have to over-explain. That's it. Declaration of no. That's peace in practice. Right? So we don't have to feel guilty about standing in our truth. Peace is not a nice to have. It's a spiritual non-negotiable. It's how you keep your energy pure. It's how you stay connected to God. It's how you make decisions from wisdom, not from woundedness or obligation. And here's a spiritual truth, right? What you have to understand is the mind anchored in God becomes a fortress. That's not religious rhetoric. That's renewal. Because when peace becomes your home, the world stops shaking you out of place. You still feel because you're soft, but you won't fold because you're grounded. You still care, but you won't overgive. You still love, but you won't abandon yourself in the process. That's the shift. That's what happens when peace becomes your standard. Not your reward, not your vacation, but your way of being. And love, you're just getting started. You're just getting started. It needs to be your place of home. It needs to be a place you come to each and every day, right? And let's get honest, Queen. The first time you chose peace over proving, it felt foreign. It did. Like you were letting someone get away with something. Like maybe you were being too quiet, too still, too soft. But then you realize stillness is not the absence of power. It's the evidence of it. Because true peace doesn't shrink you. It centers you. And now, you don't chase peace like it's a vacation destination. You embody it like it's your permanent residence. That's where you live. That's where you stay. That's the spiritual elevation we're in now. Peace is no longer a break from chaos. It's a break from being addicted to chaos. Used to feel uneasy when everything was calm, like the silence was suspicious. And it did feel suspicious. But now, you understand that calm isn't the enemy. It's not the problem. Your nervous system was just used to the storm, to the drama, to the chaos. It felt normal to you, right? Your body is no longer bracing for impact. It's opening to possibility. Your mind isn't preparing for comebacks. It's practicing stillness. Because safety, real safety, isn't just external. It's internal. It's spiritual. Let's talk discipline disguised as peace. Because it takes discipline to be unbothered. Not performing it. Not that fake, chill, secret fury type of discipline. But really rooted, aware, and present. Discipline says, I don't need to attend this argument. I don't need to return this energy. I don't need to prove my point in a room that profits off my panic. That's spiritual strength. That's the voice of God whispering, you don't have to respond. I already handled it. Right? You don't have to respond. And you know what always cracks me up? It's when you finally stop over-explaining and someone says, you're acting different. Oh, what's gotten into you? And you're like, yes, I am acting different. You just met the peaceful version of me who doesn't need your approval to breathe. You know? It's time that you choose peace. It's time that you anchor yourself in that. When you accept peace as your identity, you stop expecting the outside to affirm what you already decided inside. What you already decided, because peace is not reactive. Peace is creative. It's imaginative. It visualizes harmony before it exits. It chooses frequency over fear. And when you embody that, you no longer give chaos permission to narrate your life. You create from your spirit, not your scars. That's why you don't overtext anymore. You don't clear up every story. You don't gather receipts just to prove your version. That was so tiring. Because truth doesn't panic. Truth simply remains. And so do you. So do you. Let's go a little deeper. Let's swim into the deep end a little bit. Right? We have to understand that the soul has a rhythm, but we've been trained to ignore it, to override it, to force performance when our spirit was asking for presence. But you're not overriding anymore. You're listening. And in that listening, you're hearing peace say, come home. You don't have to defend this space. Just dwell in it. Come home. Right? You don't need to feel guilty for not replying right away anymore. You sit with your intuition. You let your no be holy. You let your pause be prophetic. You stop rushing out of fear you'll be misunderstood. Because peace has taught you. Being misunderstood, it's not a crisis. It's clarity. It's clarity in disguise. And Queen, if someone requires you to abandon your peace just to stay in relationship with them, that's not connection. That's control. Right? Just know that. Let's go ahead and free that version of you who always felt like she had to manage the mood. You know the one. Keeping the energy light in the room, translating passive aggression into palatable words, smiling when you really wanted to sit still. You've outgrown that emotional labor because your energy is not a customer service desk. It's a consecrated space. And now you protect it. You protect it. Let's be real for a second. You ever get a text that's 17 paragraphs long, written like a thesis paper with shade, subtext, and drama, and your only reply is, noted. Then you log off and start cooking or folding or doing whatever. That's what we call healed woman behavior. Because healing doesn't mean that you don't feel the fire. It doesn't mean that you stop feeling. It means you don't throw your peace into it like a matchstick. Right? You have to understand that positive faith is not naive. It's strategic. It's a mindset that says, I expect good, not because the world is always good, but because God is always faithful. So Queen, when peace is your standard, right? You're not pretending. You're prophesying over your life. You're not avoiding, you're aligning. You're not suppressing, you're stewarding. That's not detachment. That's discernment. That's not pride, that's purpose. Because when your peace becomes the lens you look through, you no longer misdiagnose stillness as weakness. You call it what it really is: raining. It's raining. Queen, here's what most people won't tell you. They won't tell you this. Peace doesn't announce itself. It enters quietly and changes everything. That's what it does. It softens the room without raising its voice. It shifts the energy without demanding attention. It makes space not by force but by frequency. Because when you've done the work to return to your center, you don't perform peace anymore. You embody it. You walk in it. It becomes part of you. That's the shift. There was a time when you needed people to understand. You needed them to understand you. You'd explain, over-explain, translate your silence, soften your nose, and stretch your boundaries till they were paper thin. But not anymore. Because now you know your nervous system is a sacred compass, not a negotiation tool. It's not. You're no longer there to betray your peace just to be seen, just to be understood. Let's talk about that real growth. Let's talk about what that looks like. Because it doesn't always look like a big win on the outside. Sometimes growth looks like letting them be wrong about you and deciding not to correct it. I know, it's hard. Growth looks like choosing stillness over the last word, which is very hard to do. It's clarity over chaos, regulation over reaction. But as you practice, you become better and better and better at it. It's not done overnight. If this message is resonating with you, if you're hearing yourself in these words, take a second to breathe, drop a comment. You're not alone in this sacred evolution. This space is built for you, rooted, discerning, and done when you're done performing. Because peace isn't passive, it's strategic. Surrender to truth, to timing, and to spirit. There's something that happens when a woman stops performing safety and starts protecting it. She no longer waits for the room to approve her stillness. She brings it with her like a crown. Unapologetically, untouchable, and unmoved. Isn't it wild how we used to think silence was weakness? That if we weren't defending ourselves, we were being disrespected. Whew. But now you see that silence can be a shield and a sword. Right? Let's anchor this now with some truth. You no longer use your energy to prove you're calm. You use your peace to reveal your healing. That's the standard. Because peace is no longer something you earn after a storm. It's something you claim before the storm even starts. It's yours to have. It's yours to keep. It's yours to claim. Right? It's not something you get as a consolation prize. It's yours to carry with you. Tell me why the moment you decide to be calm, here comes chaos knocking on your door in a group chat named Cousins Only. You're sitting there sipping your tea. Not today. Holy Spirit got me on a schedule, honey. I can't. Growth looks like deleting a response, closing the app, and choosing peace like it's your full-time job. Because honestly, it is. It is your full-time job. This is a level of peace that redefines your patterns. Right? You stop stepping into old cycles just because the door is still open. You stop explaining yourself just because someone doesn't understand your no's. You stop trying to keep people comfortable and start honoring the space that keeps you whole. That's what you have to do. You don't raise your voice to be heard. You raise your frequency by staying grounded, staying present. And Queen, that's what presence does. It says, I don't chase being understood. I carry peace like oxygen. I breathe it in and out. It's mine to have. This is what it looks like when your inner world becomes your sanctuary. You trust timing more than urgency. You trust presence more than performance. You trust peace more than permission. And in that trust, you stop doing peace and you start being it. You start being it. Let's go a little deeper. Can you handle going a little deeper? Let's go a little deeper. There's a spiritual maturity that comes when you realize you don't need to explain the boundary. You just need to uphold it. You don't need to defend your no like it's on trial. You don't need to soften your discernment to keep someone else comfortable. And you definitely don't need to be available to confusion just to avoid conflict. Queen, let's be clear. Peace is not the absence of discomfort. It's the presence of discernment. It is. Let's get a little real for a second, for just a moment. The old you would have hosted the drama, catered to the misunderstanding, and sent a thank you card for being tolerated. The new you, the you that's here right now, she logs off, lights a candle, says a prayer, and goes on a walk. Goes on a walk with her peace intact. That's alignment. Now let me call us out real quick. Why do we feel bad for choosing rest when we've been exhausted for years? Why do we think we need to explain our silence when silence is what we've been saving us? The shift is not about perfection. It's about presence. And peace is a path back to it every time, every step of the way. It guides you back to your presence. Queen, you're not becoming distant. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming defined. You're becoming clear. You're not shutting down. You're shifting up. And you don't have to over-explain peace to people who are still addicted to chaos and drama and confusion. Just bless them and stay centered. Right? Just remember this. You don't owe your voice to every room. You don't owe your energy to every invitation. You don't owe your presence to every space that once demanded your performance. Because peace is your standard now. It's your standard. And once you've tasted it, you don't settle for noise. You don't. You don't settle for chaos and drama. Right? You know that your body needs to be regulated. And that comes with standing in presence and having peace. And here's the truth. They don't always prepare you for it. When peace becomes your standard, you become unsettling to people who relied on chaos, relied on the drama. Not because you've become difficult, but because you've become disciplined. The old version of you would have bent, shifted, adjusted, just to keep harmony. But now you know the difference between peacekeeping and peacemaking. And Queen, peacekeeping costs you your power. Peacemaking comes with boundaries. There's a quiet revolution that happens in your life when you realize your energy doesn't belong to the highest bidder anymore. Not every group chat, not every text thread, not every last minute emotional emergency. You've stopped being on call for dysfunction. You've started treating your nervous system like the altar that it is. It's subtle at first. You step back from a conversation that's all heat and no clarity. You cancel plans without apologizing for needing rest. You say, I need space, and mean it. Not to hurt, not to punish, but to preserve. To preserve. Right? Now let's shift the energies just a bit. Picture this. You're sitting in a room full of noise, not just loud voices, but emotional noise. The kind where everyone's trying to be heard, but no one's really listening. You've been there. Old you would have jumped in to mediate, soothe things over, translate, tone check. The new you sip your water, whisper a prayer, and say, I'll be in the other room when you're ready for some peace or when dinner's served. That's not petty. That's spiritual preservation. It's not. Let's name it. Let's name it right now. You're no longer trying to regulate the room. You're regulating you. You're not checking the temperature of the space before you enter. You bring your own climate. And Queen, when you start leading with that kind of inner calibration, people either rise to meet it or reveal that they can't. Either way, you stay rooted. Let's talk a little bit deeper now. Because this version of you doesn't outsource your sense of self. It doesn't. You don't wait for validation to feel clear. You don't audition for intimacy. You don't explain your gentleness like a disclaimer. You learn that clarity is kind even when it's quiet. And not every conflict deserves your clarity. Some situations aren't invitations, they're distractions. Distractions of your purpose. Now here's the funny part. Tell me why the moment you start protecting your peace, someone shows up with a "we need to talk" energy, as if your boundary was an offense instead of a declaration, that you're no longer over-functioning for anything that you're not ready for. But guess what? You don't flinch. You just nod and let them talk you to oblivion, I guess. They can talk, but you're rooted. You're rooted. Let's root this in some scripture, though. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Renewing your mind looks like unlearning that people-pleasing is a form of love, because it's not. Unlearning that overgiving makes you noble. Unlearning that power lies in how much you endure. Oh my goodness, it doesn't, babe. Your power lies in how deeply you protect your peace and how quietly you walk away when that peace is threatened. Why do we still think we owe access to anyone who knew the older version of us? You've changed, I've changed, and peace doesn't require retroactive explanations. You don't have to tell them the reasons why. You walk into the room and let the energy shift around you. You no longer apologize for your silence. You no longer soften your discernment to avoid awkwardness. You just show up as you are, soft, rooted, discerning, and whole, and let the moment catch up to your evolution. You are worthy and you deserve that. It's so funny, like you'll be completely unbothered, zen, journaling, and then you get a message that says, I miss how close we used to be. What they miss is who you used to be before boundaries. Before you learn that peace is not just a feeling, it's a filter. Do they really miss you? Or miss what they can get from you? And not everything gets to pass through that filter anymore. This is maturity, where you stop offering softness as a survival strategy and start embodying it as a spiritual stance. You're not available for one-sided labor. You're not available for guilt-wrapped manipulation. You're not available to prove your love. You don't have to prove your love. You don't have to be tested, because you're not cold, queen. You're just clear now. And peace isn't something you practice anymore. It's something you protect, because it's there to protect you. That's the work now. The deep soul-rooted work of being calm when you used to be chaotic, of being gentle with your nose, of defending your decisions with essays anymore, of saying this is not aligned and letting that just be enough. And yes, some people will say you're not like how you used to be. Let them. That's the point. That is the point. You're not meant to stay digestible to people who only knew you in survival. Let's say that again. You are no longer making yourself smaller so others don't have to stretch. That was never peace. That was performance. And queen, you don't perform anymore. You pause. You protect. You move when spirit moves. That's peace. That's your standard. Right? You start to embody that shift within you. Because peace isn't the absence of noise. There will be noise. It's a presence of divine clarity, the kind that reshapes how you move, how you speak, how you choose. You don't flinch anymore when you're not invited. You don't spiral when you're misunderstood. You don't over-explain when someone doesn't see your value. You know that you are worthy. Because now you see it. You don't reach for the microphone to prove it. You rest in the revelation that you're worthy. This is a shift. You stop measuring your growth by how loud you can be and started measuring it by how deeply you can remain still even when chaos and drama knocks on your door. You don't need to win anymore. You don't even need to be right. You just need to be able to be aligned. And alignment never needs applause. It doesn't. You've walked away from the version of who thought peace had to be earned through exhaustion. You stopped attending debates your soul never asked for, not one time. You started choosing the path of least resistance to your spirit and highest alignment with your calling. Because peace is not passive. It's prophetic. It says, I don't need to fight for my future. I just need to walk in it. I need to walk it out. Right? Peace becomes power the moment you stop asking permission to protect it. And just protecting it. The moment you stop checking in with the crowd before honoring what's sacred in you. The moment you trust silence more than spectacles. That's not pride. That's protection. That's protection, divine protection. There will be moments when your peace offends the people who benefited from your overextension. Let it. You're no longer available for roles you had to shrink to fit. You're no longer molding yourself into soft shapes to be digestible. You're no longer giving clarity to people who are only looking to argue and not to understand. And that, queen, that's the kind of clarity that heals lineage, that restores legacies. You no longer owe your energy to confusion. You owe it to your calling, to your purpose. You no longer donate your nervous system to unspoken tension. You let the room be uncomfortable and stay seated in your center. That's the woman you become, rooted in her own presence. Now take this with you. You don't preserve peace by pleasing people. You preserve peace by honoring your own soul first. That's not being selfish. That's being a good steward. A good steward of what God has given you. You stop performing harmony at the expense of honesty. You stop performing soft when what your spirit really needs is stillness. And sometimes, Queen, the most spiritually powerful thing you'll ever do is say nothing at all. Not because you don't know what to say. Trust me, you do. But because you finally understand not everything deserves your breath. Not every message deserves your energy. Not every emotion deserves your response. When peace is your new standard, your silence is no longer empty. It's full of knowing. It's full of knowing. All right, let's breathe. Find your seat, soften your jaw, unclench your hands, let your shoulders fall. We're not holding tension here. We're holding peace. Inhale with me. Hold. Exhale. Inhale with me. Hold. Exhale. Inhale again. Hold. Exhale. One more time. Deep and slow. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. We breathe to come back to center, to regulate our nervous system, to tell ourselves we're safe. Your Queen closing gift is waiting for you. Receive it. Let it be a reflection of the shift you've made and the woman you've become and becoming right now. And Queen, if this message has grounded you in your becoming, if something stirred in you, in your soul as you listened, right? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Share this with a sister, friend, anyone who can be helped with this message. I give you you give me your time, and I give you my best as we promise each other. Because this space is not just where you learn peace, it's where you become it. We don't chase closure here. We walk in clarity, right? As always, stay crowned, stay in peace, stay blessed. Have a great day, Queen. Talk to you soon.